Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to update a couple of my picks for the upcoming Fight Night 113 Nelson versus Ponzinibbio card. I'm going to be making changes for a couple of the picks. I'm going to be making some changes from what I had said in my video. I'm also going to let you know what bets I'm going to be making for this card. I want to make clear, though, that for this event, I really don't like much in the way of betting, at least not picks or parlays that I'm really confident on, even though I'm going to be betting on them myself. Definitely not going to be betting as much as I did with my main parlay on UFC 213, which was Font, Laprise, and Blades, which I did win. I also had several other parlays based around that one on that card. I incorporated other fighters like Whitaker and Overeem, Pettis. And even though my picks for Tough 25 were absolutely terrible, lost a lot of money on that card. And my ROI, I'm sure, was really bad because of all the money I lost on the Tough 25 card. But between the two events, I still netted about $50, and I was really happy with that. I told you that that parlay on 213, that was my main pick. That was my most confident pick of any bet I had made between the two events. And $50. I'd be stoked if I could make that going forward on each event. And I intend on being able to make, even larger sums than that, making that McGregor money. But, for anyone thinking about, criticizing me for the picks I made for Tough 25, feel free, but let it be known it still came out $50 ahead between those two events. But I just want to make clear that that's not what I'm going to be doing here. I'm not telling you that this is a relatively risk-free bet, like I had said with the UFC 213 bet, which I really believed. So I'm still betting some money on this card. I hope it works out, but I definitely see the possibility of this going south. So I just want to be clear about that up front. Yeah, when I'm confident in a pick, I will definitely convey that to you guys and get that point across. And I'll be, betting larger sums of money on those parlays, and I'm probably going to have some of those for the next upcoming card, the New York fight, Fox card. And I bet $50 on that UFC 213 parlay. Bet 50 to make 50. Lost money on Tough 25, and with my other parlays still made 50. But yeah, just wanted to be clear about that. And there's some commenters are upset with me that I'm changing my picks after my videos, and I just don't know what to tell you guys. I guess just grow up. I mean, I'm allowed to make videos. I don't have to abide by any rules. You're absolutely free to take my advice how you want. You're responsible for your own bets. And I'm not going to put my videos out, 1 or 2 days before the events. I'm going to put them out ahead of time. And most of the time I don't change many picks. I don't, I haven't kept any data on it, but I'm sure, the absolute number of picks that I've changed for my videos is a really small percentage. If you, tally up all of my picks and changed picks. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, I make my picks for the videos. I try to get those out early. I feel like that's better for me and for you guys. And, what am I allowed to not think after I make a video? So, I don't know what to say to you guys, but, if you're tracking my picks, I feel honored, but, you don't have to do that. There's a site that does that for free, and it's called UFC Pick'em. and you guys can find me. You know my handle. I'm in like 5 different leagues, so if you want to track my progress of my final picks, you know, you can look me up there. But yeah, I don't really have any response to that other than you know, just grow up. I'm allowed to change my picks, so you know, whatever. But yeah, so let me tell you what picks I am going to be changing for this card. Um, let's start with the most important fight, which I'm going to be changing my pick for. That's Calvillo Calderwood. Just listening to you guys really have made me realize that Calvillo deserves to be the favorite here, and I'm actually really glad that I've kind of reconsidered this one because now that I'm picking Calvillo, I don't really see how it can go the other way. I see an argument for Calderwood, but it kind of feels like I have to make an argument. I have to kind of construct one, whereas Calvillo just feels like the favorite and the natural pick when you just compare their styles, their fight histories. Um, Calderwood doesn't deal well with, you know, aggressive fighters who are going to go after her from the opening bell. Uh, you know, Marina Moroz just chased her down with a blitz and didn't even really land a whole lot of meaningful shots in that blitz, but just you know, put her on the back foot, then pulled guard, and next thing Calderwood was tapping. Andrade got her early. Even Courtney Casey won that first round against her, came out aggressive, and you know, Calderwood was on the defensive in that first round. I think the size of Calvillo and just kind of the how basic her striking still is might be a problem. Calderwood is creative. You know, had the spinning back fist against Letourneau, put her away with that. Calderwood, I think, is a more composed striker, but I just think she's someone that doesn't deal well with that volume, that forward pressure, that aggression. So I think Calvillo is I think that's gonna be a big part of her success here. Just coming after Calderwood, getting in her face, and just throwing a lot more. So I think that volume will eventually get to Calderwood. I don't think Calvillo is a good enough wrestler where she can really take the fight to the ground at will the way that Andrade did. But if Mina Moroz is, you know, half pulling her into guard, half Calderwood kind of following her to the ground, Calvillo, as great a scrambler as she is, I feel pretty good that, you know, at some point, with all the volume she's going to put on Calderwood, that at some point, you know, something's going to open up for her. So, yeah, I'm taking Calvillo by submission. I still think Calderwood, there's just that experience edge. The women's strawweight division, though, is still just so young that experience doesn't really translate to, you know, level of opposition. You know, someone like Yen Jacek came in and within 2 years was the champion. So I don't know that Calderwood. I mean, I still think Courtney Casey and Valerie Letourneau, those are better opponents than Cooper and Gonzalez, but I don't know if the experience counts for as much as I was kind of playing it up in my head with my initial pick. So taking Calvillo, yeah, I still see a small possibility that, you know, if Calderwood can keep this on the feet, or technical striker, really picking her shots more, she could hurt Calvillo or just be too big for her. Or if, you know, it gets to the ground and Calvillo's on her back, that Calderwood might be able to hold her there. But Calderwood's not really she's a very static top position player. Even the Courtney Casey fight, you know, when she got in top position, Casey was really working her guard, and Calderwood would just kind of sit there. And I don't see that happening really. If it hits the ground, Calvillo is such a hard scrambler that I think she's going to find her way to Calderwood's back. But yeah, if it stays on the feet, that's a more competitive fight. But I do think Calvillo definitely deserves to be the favorite, and I'm feeling fairly comfortable about the pick. Not going to say I'm super confident in it or anything, but this is actually one of the picks that I made in my main parlay for this card. Just want to say some quick words about Felder Ray. I don't think I'm going to end up changing my pick. I said that Felder was one of my most confident picks in my video. I'm definitely walking back that statement now. I think this is a super close fight, and I was actually ready to pick Ray. I rewatched tape on both guys after making my pick, and Felder got outstruck by not only Trinaldo but Josh Berkman. Berkman post the Cote knockout, and that didn't look good to me. I think he really lacks a pocket striking game. I mean, he's a great Muay Thai specialist. He's got these big fight-ending shots, these unorthodox moves that he can apply. But in terms of like volume and just process-driven striking, doesn't have a fundamental boxing game. Pearson really kind of exposed him. And just getting in his chest in that fight and making it a clinch battle, Pearson really shut him down. When he's given space, like in the Castillo in his most recent fight, the Ricci fight, and even Barboza, which is, it's kind of odd that he was able to do as well as he did against Barboza, when he was just given space, and that was just kind of an all-out war of two guys just throwing as many unorthodox techniques as they could. But then he followed that up with the loss to Pearson, and then that fight against Cruikshank where he was just getting spanked. Cruikshank was out striking him, out wrestling him. So Felder definitely lacks that fundamental striking. Ray's got more craft to his game. So I was thinking that Ray is just going to kind of outland Felder, especially in the pocket. I think Ray will have more speed. But then what brought me back to Felder is just the fact that Ray is not that dominant in any of his, at least not in his recent fights. Got a couple of knockouts early against really low-level competition like Mafra and Bandel, but against Pearson and Lozon, super close fights, and especially the Lozon fight, still took damage, not only when he was eating elbows on the ground, but even on the feet. Got hit a lot and still kind of struggled to find his rhythm in that fight. And it's a small guy for lightweight, and I just think against a bigger guy who's got fight-ending power, being that hittable and taking that damage against a guy who's not a dangerous striker in Lozon, I just see that being a problem. And I know Ray is the hometown fighter. He's really tough, really is able to work through adversity in fights like he did in the Lozon fight, but I don't think Ray has the fluidity to his striking in the way that Trinaldo or even Berkman did. So I do see him having that volume advantage, outlanding Felder. But I think Felder's going to get enough of that space that he needs, and if not knock out Ray, still land enough of those big shots to change the complexion of the fight. So I think I'm sticking with Felder, but stay tuned to hear about my one of my big parlays for this card. And actually, I didn't mention at the top, but I should mention this now. I have my main parlay, which again, I'm not super confident in it. There is some risk in it. I'm not betting a whole lot on it. I'm betting a little bit. But then I do have one parlay. It's an underdog parlay, 3 underdogs, and the payoff is so huge that I just thought it was absolutely worth the risk. However, each of those underdogs, I think, does have a serious chance of winning. I see all of them as really competitive fights. So stay tuned for that. Um, and that's more of a fight where I'm taking advantage of the odds. Even if I'm not gonna pick each of those fighters, see, but just stay tuned for that. You know, this this pick of Felder is a tease for one part of that parlay. So I'm sticking with Felder for now, but I think that's such a close fight that I may change to Ray again, but I think I'm gonna stick with Felder. Roundtree and Craig. This is one I changed. I just can't trust that Roundtree has the takedown defense to prevent the takedown and prevent himself from getting subbed. Beating Daniel Jolly was nice. It showed what he's great at, but it doesn't show that he's made any changes. And then when you consider just his resume, I mean, this guy's beaten nobody. He's beaten Daniel Jolly, Josh Stansbury, who, frankly, I think he, has fought his way out of the UFC, or, deserves to get the boot right now. And lost to Corey Hendricks, lost to Andrew Sanchez, who got knocked out in his last fight. His resume does not, inspire confidence. Craig in that Enrique da Silva fight, he looked big, tough, looked like he can go maybe not shot for shot with Roundtree, but certainly has some ability on his feet, can hurt guys with his strikes, and then on the ground looks like a fairly skilled submission guy. I just don't think Roundtree is going to be able to punch him out. He could, hurt him, win that first round. Craig is hittable. But, what Pedro did to Craig, I just think there was more craft, more fight IQ involved in that. Timing him the way he did, and then securing the dominant position on the ground to land those elbows. I just don't see Roundtree being able to do those things. Craig's going to be too durable to be put away in that first round. I think he's going to survive and eventually get the fight to the ground and submit Roundtree. Now, one caveat to this is that Craig does not have any rear naked choke wins on his record. Only triangles, mostly triangles, and I think 1 or 2 armbar finishes. And the way Roundtree has lost is by rear naked choke. And when I envision him, getting taken down and subbed by a guy who can withstand that early storm, I envision him losing by rear naked choke. So I don't know how good of a back taker Craig is, if he even has that skill at all. But I still think he could finish Roundtree even by armbar, if he's able to get him down. I'm not sold that Roundtree's even a true light heavyweight. I mean, Andrew Sanchez beat him by putting his size and weight on him and just wearing him out. And Sanchez dropped to middleweight right after that fight. And Craig's bigger, 6'4", Roundtree 6'1", I believe. So not a super confident pick, but I do think that's the way to go. Craig's still hittable, kind of an upright guy who has an open chin, but he's going to have the crowd behind him. Roundtree, being kind of a head case, being a guy who always mentally breaks and gets subbed, and against weak competition, Corey Hendricks, that guy didn't even beat Stansbury. So I see Craig surviving the onslaught and getting the win by sub. Just some quick words on Mulher and Willis. I said that Willis was one of my most confident picks, but I saw minimal footage on either of these guys, and Willis, I believe he might have been scheduled for his UFC debut previously, I think is what I heard, and missed weight. But definitely evident from his regional footage that he's an overweight guy, and Mulherin is as well. And the footage I saw of Willis, he's just able to kind of run over guys immediately and pound them out, and just looked a lot better than the one fight of Mulherin's that I saw, which was a really slow, uneventful kickboxing match where he didn't really put out a lot of offense. But just because there's so little footage on either guy, I can't say that Willis is one of my most confident picks. So I'm still going to take him here, but I was thinking initially to include him in my main parlay for this card, but can't do that, and I would advise against it because Mulheron's got a lot of TKO wins on his record, which I didn't account for initially. And you never know with guys this green. I'd said that Blades, this fight with Omilanchek on 213, that wouldn't be competitive at all, and Blades had me sweating a little bit there. So two newcomers, two out of shape guys, you just never know. So I would just stay away from that one if you're looking to make the most risk-free parlay that you can. But on to the next pick that I'm going to be changing. That's Nash versus Roberts. I don't know. I still think Nash could challenge him with the wrestling, but I don't know that Nash. I don't know that he is as proactive with his wrestling as a guy like Dominic Steele is, who's just constantly coming forward. Nash really, in his pre-UFC fights, really seems to play the counter-striking game, and if he fights at that range, Roberts is just the more technical guy at that, has good body kicks and long strikes. And Nash, got knocked out by Jing Lang. So I got to take Roberts now. I think that's a clear pick. But, he's still taken down by Dominic Steele. Nash just have some KO wins. So I think there's a potentially catches Roberts. But even though Roberts was put out by Mike Perry, the flip side of that is that he went 3 rounds and took a lot of shots from a really powerful guy. So I think that means his chin is good. And a guy who's just as patient and throws as little as Nash, I think that, and remember against Jing Liang, he did drop him and almost choked him out. But I just think Roberts is going to be too technical at range and have the volume advantage and the craft advantage. So I'm going to change my pick to Roberts, I think by decision. All right. And then the last pick, Tamor Henry. I may end up changing this one. I took Henry in my video, and I'm still going to go with that. At least as of now, I'm not decided. I could change this one. From what I've heard from other people's analysis, they say that the scene that Tamor is fighting on is just that circuit is leagues above the circuit that Henry's been fighting on, and I can buy that. But just what I saw from Tamor, he got knocked out in his fight against Yumbi, and that fight was restarted, and he ended up winning it. And then the other fight, he got an early first-round knockout where he actually timed the knockout shot really well, but just seems hittable. Henry seems to have unassuming power. I didn't actually see any full-length footage of Henry's fights, just highlight reels. And I know that's just a terrible way to make a pick, but that's all I have. And he seems to have really good modified oaks, things like anacondas and things of that sort. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like people are just picking Tamor here because of his brother, and he's definitely nowhere near that level. But that's one I might be changing. Um, and yeah, I think Morales and Johns. I said in my video that was a close fight. I think I'm still picking Morales though, and I think at 270, at least on Bovada, and actually when the lines opened on, believe on 5 dimes, it was like 338. That would have been, I think, a great underdog pick, at least for a small bet. But yeah, I think this is still a really competitive fight. I'm still taking Morales and Lemo Smith. That's a tough one, but I still think I think Smith has just been kind of built up too much by the level of her opposition. Barely beat Rin Nakai, and other than that, has wins over Jessamine Duke, and in her last fight, what's her name, Renee Aldana, who just seems too hesitant to really cut it in the UFC. So I still think I'm going with Lemos on that one. All right, so I updated you on the picks that I'm changing, and again, some of those I'm still undecided on. And for any of you that have a problem with that, I don't know what to say. But now let's get into the bet. So let's parlay this. So I like Nelson. I think I made that clear in my video, and I said as much. That he's one of my most confident picks. I think 160 really good odds for a favorite. I feel Nelson. I'm really surprised actually that Calvillo is a much bigger favorite than Nelson. Ponzinibbio is a legit opponent. This could be a tough fight for Nelson, but I just don't see Ponzinibbio winning it. When I just think of how hittable Ponzinibbio is, and how much Nelson's been able to make his shots count in his last couple of fights against really sophisticated strikers, at least in Albert Tumanov. And considering that Ponzinibbio was knocked out against Lorenz Larkin, a guy with a speed and power advantage, and he was out wrestled by LaFleur. Nelson has both of those things, so I don't see Ponzinibbio winning it. So Nelson is going to is always going to be one of my most confident picks for this card. And then I really turned on that Calvillo Calderwood fight, another fight where I just think Calvillo really deserves to be the favorite and just has too much offense, and especially on the ground where Calderwood has been weak. She's Calvillo's really skilled and dangerous there. So like I said, I still kind of feel there's a chance Calderwood would win. So if I was just picking like my really most confident picks, I would leave her out. But the other fight that I'm gonna pick here is Marshman for this parlay. And if you see there, it's 105. I mean, that's not that bad. You're almost doubling your money, not quite. You basically are. But to really get that payoff, you got to add one more in there. And I think Calvillo does that. You see, you go all the way up to 182, which is a lot closer to tripling your money than doubling it if you left her out of there. And, really more than any other fight on the card, I'm probably more confident in Calvillo than any other one. So if I'm picking the three I'm most confident in, that's what I'm doing. I put $15 on this parlay. I really like Nelson. I really like Marshman. Not to ramble on here, but just like I said in my video, James seems like a really upright guy, just leaves his chin exposed. A tough, scrappy dude, but just shouldn't have the striking technique to survive with Marshman. if he can get it to the ground, different story. Uh, he had no problems going right into the wheelhouse of Gerald Mearshart, a skilled submission guy, and ultimately paid for it. But I think it's just unlikely he out wrestles Marshman for 3 rounds. And, Marshman managed to get a knockdown on Thiago Santos, and James just seems like so far from that level technically and even just visually, form-wise, that I don't see how Marshman doesn't knock him out. So 500, that's kind of crazy, but honestly, like I said, just don't see James really being able to win it. So that's why Marshman's in there. And yeah, if I'm picking my 3 most confident picks, that's what I'm doing. It's a nice little payoff. But just to reiterate, this is not like that parlay I made on 213 where I told you, I was really confident in that and I put the big bucks on it. This is, I'm making a much smaller bet than I did on that one. I was confident on this. I could see a case where Nelson loses. I think it's unlikely. And, the Calvillo fight, I mentioned, my trepidation about that one. But this is the best I can do. If I had to give you, a 3-fight parlay, the rest of the fights, they're just, we don't know much about either guy, a lot of newcomers, or they're just too competitive. This is the best that I can advise on as far as a 3-fighter parlay with a worthwhile payoff. So I would not bet the house on this one, but if you're willing to risk some money, you want to make some money on this card, that's what I would go with. Now, I think there's a super parlay. It's an underdog parlay, 3 underdogs. I was, playing around with the odds, and I put a pretty small bet on it. But man, if it pays off, that's gonna be sweet. And I know it's that sounds off-putting, just betting on the dogs because just because they're dogs. And let me be clear, that's not what I'm doing. When I made my video for last week's events, I said that I don't bet based on the odds. And if I'm talking about just betting, in terms of betting the fighters I'm most confident in, then of course, I'm not betting just based on the odds. If I'm betting meaningful money, I'm going to go with the 3 fighters that I think have the best chance of winning, like I did on this card with the previous parlay I just showed you. But I think these 3 dogs that I'm picking, the payoff is so high that it's just worth, taking the risk to me. And I would just make it a really small bet, money that you can, would just be insignificant if you lost. But take a look at this. So I already said that I like Paul Craig, right? So let's add Craig to our parlay. And I already made my case for Felder, and I said, this is super close. Might end up picking Ray here, but I think I'm going to stick with Felder, and I certainly think he can win. I mean, it's that close that if there's a payout to really take advantage of here, then I think it's certainly worth the risk. So I would throw Felder in there, and then this last one's going to kind of throw everyone for a loop. But hear me out. Neil Seery. All right. Neil Seery. Pantoja. Now, the other 2 fights, Felder and Craig, those are the picks that I'm probably going to make. Again, Felder, Ray, I could still, I'm kind of going back and forth on that one. But Craig I will be taking, like, just no money involved, a straight pick on my fantasy picks. You just asked me who I think is going to win. I would take Craig now. And I might go that way for Felder. I probably will. Neil Seery versus Pantoja, I would still take Pantoja. So That might kill this bet for most of you. But again, we're playing the odds here, and it's not that I think Siri can't win. It's that I think Pantoja will win. Um, but I think that Pantoja is really overhyped going into this fight. And even in my video, I said that Pantoja was not one of my most confident picks, and it's because, or I wouldn't put him in a parlay. And it's because I think Siri has a serious chance of outworking him here. At least for me, I can acknowledge that I think I've really built up Pantoja because of his win over Brandon Moreno. But I think he got Brandon Moreno when he was, still really young in his career, and it wasn't all that long ago. But Moreno's a young fighter. He's still a really young green fighter, and 2 years ago, year and a half ago, for a guy who's still pretty green, that's a long time in the early stages of a guy's development. So I think Pantoja really caught him at the right time. I wouldn't pick him to beat Moreno today, not at all. And didn't have super dominant wins against. Did he fight Kai Kara France? I can't recall. I know there was that other jiu-jitsu guy on the show, Candido. And then he lost to the Japanese guy that made it to the semifinals on that season. And then when he fought Eric Shelton in the UFC in his debut, razor thin fight. I think Shelton could have won that decision. Pantoja was not really dominant anywhere, just kind of got enough control time, enough time riding out his back on the feet, getting the tight waist. And that's what I see him doing against Siri here. I think he could just get, a little, just enough control time, climb the back on the feet, just get enough time on the ground, holding him down to win a decision. But on the feet, I don't know that Pantoja is really much better of a striker. Maybe picks his shots better, a little more technical. But man, Siri's got that hand speed, volume, just a really quick, high volume boxer who always comes forward, of heart, durable, and this is his retirement fight in his hometown. A super emotional guy. I think that's really gonna aid him here. And again, I'm picking Pantoja, but I think it's a very competitive fight still. I think one of the most important things to consider, Siri, when he fought Kyoji Horiguchi, had some success early in that fight. I thought he was going to get just destroyed, and he didn't. The fight went the distance. It was relatively competitive. And to me, Kyoji Horiguchi had way more to offer in terms of lethality and skill than Pantoja does here, especially when it came to the feet. And Pantoja is not a great wrestler. That's the thing. Good scrambler, good at clinging to guys' backs, but as far as a wrestler, if he can't get that takedown, Siri starts lighting him up and really makes use of that hand speed. That could just totally turn the tables for Pantoja, I think. So I think Siri's got a serious chance of outworking Pantoja here. I don't think Pantoja's striking game is as good as it is when we consider his win over Moreno. And Siri, just a tough guy, went 3 rounds with Horiguchi. I know got out grappled by Smolka, but I think even Smolka is a different kind of grappler than Pantoja. And again, I'm just playing the odds here. I mean, look at that. It's plus 2,035. I threw $5 on this, and the payout's 100. So, I don't mind it. I've definitely accepted now that, not to solely make bets based on the odds, but the odds can definitely propel you to make a pick that uh, you wouldn't risk money on otherwise. Again, I'm going to be taking Pantoja for my fantasy picks, and I know I'll probably be shunned for doing that, but this is betting. This is investment, and to me, this is just these underdogs here. As far as this parlay goes, they're just undervalued. Siri at 280. Um, he's a really tough guy, fights with a lot of heart, and I think has a higher work rate than Pantoja. So I could seriously see him winning this one. Just wanted to throw that out there. The other fights are risky too. Could go either way, but I just want to point that out. If you want to bet, a really insignificant amount of money that you can afford to lose, why not take the chance? The payout is so big. $5 wins you 100, $10 200. So don't bet the house or anything on it, but I think it's seriously something to consider. So those are my bets. Thank you guys for watching. And sorry about changing all the picks, but again, what am I just not allowed to? Do I have to go into a coma after I make my video? I'm not allowed to think anymore or reconsider things. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. So yeah, happy betting. Hope it works out. Whatever parlays picks you're gonna make. But I'm actually more excited for the next card coming up, Weidman versus Gastelum. I got a parlay there in mind that even before the odds have come out that I think is a lot more advantageous than the main parlay that I made here of Nelson, Calvillo, and Marshman. So I'm excited for that one. And yeah, guys, I'm in this. Even if the picks start to not work out. Hopefully they do. I'm up right now, but if they start to not work out, I'm just gonna keep going and try to adjust and make corrections. I'm enjoying this. I'm gonna be in this for the long haul, so hopefully it's a profitable journey. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. And check out my video for Fox 25, and then I'll have my predictions for 214 out this weekend, I guess. And then I'm also on Capper Tech and Bet MMA Tips. I'll post my picks there, but honestly, not a huge fan of the tracking sites, and I prefer doing a more conversational, more of a discussion like this with you guys, and just kind of directing you to my my tracking site. So yeah, guys, thanks, and I'll see you soon. Bye.